and welcome to the He Doesn't Want a podcast. Today I am here with Eamonn Hughes Senior. Before I get to speaking to Eamonn, I just want to thank our sponsors, Jumbo Park Racecourse and Learners Ross Driving School. Once again, many thanks for your support and your help to help the podcast run smoothly. So Eamonn, we had a bit of a delay trying to get you on. Technical issues originally, but you were saying earlier you weren't well for a while there as well.
That's right. Unfortunately, like many others, I contacted the old COVID-19, put me on my back for about 2.5 weeks. Thankfully, I had my lovely wife and daughter to look after me. So a big shout out to Elaine and Nicole for doing what they did. Without them, I would have been totally lost. Let me tell you that anybody who thinks it's COVID-19 is some form of minor illness, they need to give their heads a good shake and listen to the medical people. This thing here, unfortunately, is here to stay. And once Flamer wasn't prepared to go out on the field of play that Saturday, you knew it was bad, I can tell you. Yeah. So big shout out to the wife and daughter. Looked after me big time. Thanks again. Brilliant.
As somebody who's been through it and also been through the worst of it, would you be very cautious then? And you think that the authorities should be really cautious about going back to football this year?
The old saying at the end of the day, and again, this unfortunately has been brought in to be a political question. My personal attitude is health is more important than wealth. Again, and I do understand people need to earn a living too. So basically, if some form of compromise could be found for everybody, I would be delighted. But as far as football is concerned, at the minute, we do have to listen to the guidelines, and I do have my suspicions that maybe not everybody is adhering to the guidelines. I saw a couple of floodlights run about last night, and I saw a couple of footballs being kicked about. And obviously, these people need to take a good look at themselves if they're doing what many people think they are doing. So health is paramount in my view. Yeah.
Yeah. The directive from the FA was different from the executive. So the executive was just saying that 15 people, and then the FA said no football is training only. Some teams are probably, and not condoning everyone's decision, but the leagues have, the BDFL was started in September. The amateur league is planning on starting on the 28th, which is the day after the lockdown finishes. And the BDFL, I'm assuming, is going to start back straight away as well. Do you think that's a good idea to go straight back into it for these teams?
Personally, again, I feel that teams should be given a wee bit of time to prepare. If the deadlock is lifted on the 27th and games are scheduled for 28th, it's not giving the players any time to prepare physically and everybody else for the game. So I think they should be given at least a week to do some form of team training as such. Because if they don't, you know yourself, Guy, anybody can, if they're not prepared properly, they can pick up an injury, which could put them out long term, hamstring, anything like that. You know what I mean? And if players go out on the field of play and they're not totally fit, there could be sort of other issues involved too. You know what I mean?
Yeah. In terms of the amateur league, I'm not sure what other leagues may do, but the amateur league have given teams the option to play on the 28th because there was fixtures arranged, or both teams have to agree. But we'll not know how many teams have decided to do that until this Saturday, because they've given teams until the 21st of November to decide what they want to do. So some teams might just want to go straight back in it and take the risk with injuries, and some teams might want to go and take a break for another week. And sometimes it's hard as coaches as well. Players have different opinions, and sometimes you have to go with what the players think, because it's getting to the stage now. Some teams have been training from June and haven't kicked the ball properly competitively since then. So everybody wants to play, but like we were talking about, it's the health risk we got to be careful of, and also the fact that injury risks of being out of the game so long. So there's a lot to take in, really.
You also have to look at the practicalities of it. I mean, we are now in the throes of winter here, and what could happen is games could be scheduled here for Saturday. A lot of games could be wiped out. I mean, if there had been games last Saturday, I would say 50% of them would have been called off due to waterlogged pitches. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
true.
And then you're going into the Christmas period where a lot of players have jobs where they might have to work on a Saturday. You know, it's putting pressure on them. Personally, I feel a lot of leagues, and I'm probably possibly make myself unpopular at suggesting this. I would suggest I would think that some leagues are at this point in time contemplating no football until the 9th of January. Now
Yeah,
that would make I would be really annoyed at that, but with with talk of a second lockdown in December, you know, I think some teams might say it's too much hassle. Just go 9th of January. But again, I might
yeah.
be wrong, and I hope I'm wrong because, as I say, I'm really looking forward to get back out onto the pitch. So yeah,
I was going to ask you, are you missing it yourself? Are you looking forward to getting back out refereeing?
I am. You know, with obviously with my illness and that, I mean, a lot of other people have had it and as bad as me, if not worse than me. But
Yeah,
basically, it did sort of put things in perspective. I mean, you were looking at the bigger picture. Your health is your wealth, the old saying.
yeah,
But also, you did appreciate the fact that God, you reflected back on matches and you enjoyed being out on the field of play and interacting with the players, interacting with the coaches, interacting with fellow referees. One thing I will miss, however, be quite honest, but until these restrictions are lifted, the referees change room. Maybe there's a location where there's maybe 5 or 6 referees doing games, and
yeah,
you can exchange sort of thoughts and ask for opinions on certain things and this and that, and build up a bit of camaraderie. And referees are just human beings like the rest of the players, and
yeah.
we have our highs and our lows, but we also have our own wee form of com, camaraderie, or believe it or not.
Yeah, it's something you never really think of with coaches and players. We miss
Yeah,
the change room atmosphere, but then
absolutely.
if you went to the likes of Mollusk or whatever, and there's any games on,
Yeah,
other referees get together and you can talk
yeah.
about things. And then as a senior referee, would you be a mentor to a lot of younger referees also?
Not officially as such, but quite a few of young referees have come up and asked for my opinion, and the sort of for some misconception on their part, they tend to look at me with a certain amount of awe, but probably because they think because of my age and my responsibility that I'm better than the rest of them. The only thing I can do is I just try and advise them what through my own experience
Yeah,
what the do's and the do nots, and if they do sort of advise, do take my advice and it works out, brilliant. And if they don't take my advice and it doesn't work out, well, at the end of the day, they'll always learn by your mistakes.
yeah,
One
and
one thing I would like to highlight, and this is going to cause a ripple of concern through a lot of teams and players. There was a directive issued not too long ago whereby if there's no ref, there's no game.
yeah,
Now, as you know yourself, Guy, in the confines of the amateur league, maybe there was times where no official referee turned up and you just tossed up and you had a club referee or something like that.
yeah. Especially
You
the
know,
third division, second teams.
yes. Well, we have been speaking about that ourselves, and I, in years gone by, have benefited and sort of been disadvantaged when there was a club referee in the playing days. And you know yourself, if you have a if you have a club referee there, the opposition, the first decision which goes against the opposition, the opposition is going to go mad. He's out the raw boss, match this, and then there's mayhem. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Uh, Thankfully, for the most part, over the last 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe 9 years, I have been able to get all the games covered 99.9% of the time.
right.
However, due to the shortage of referees now, I think that might not be the case from now on. Now,
Yeah,
look, I do recruit referees who maybe um, are not in an affiliate league in the afternoon, and I
yeah,
would ask them, would you like a game? And if the teams behave themselves, the referee naturally is going to come back and for more. But if the
yeah,
teams don't behave themselves, then obviously he or she. We've got a couple of she's now, as you can gather.
Yeah.
He or she might not be sort of enticed back so quickly.
Yeah. Were you seeing an uptake on the amount of referees for a while there, and then it's just started to drop off, or was it more the fact there was less teams out there that you were able to cover games, or?
What happened there, Gary? To be quite honest, but it was a combination of both. There were more referees, and I had a pool of referees there, and I built up a good rapport with them. They built a good rapport with most of the teams. Most of the teams were easy to handle, respected the referee.
Yeah.
Most of the time, obviously there's going to be controversial issues. We're all only human. Referees make mistakes. Players make mistakes. There's going to be controversy. Of course there is. But I was able to have this pool of referees and had a few wee add-ons, and I was able, by hook or by crook, to get all the games covered. Now, I actually have a wee referee, God love him. He's from Carnot. But he actually can come down and referees for me. So I don't know where to take it, as a sort of a personal compliment or the fact that the teams treat him well. So if maybe a combination both, he's prepared to come down, and I will use him every week. He mightn't be the best referee in the world, but they say having a referee, official referee, for both teams, it's better than having no referee at all. So that's it.
And then the club referee thing you spoke about earlier.
Oh my God!
It could always create controversy, so it can.
However, Guy, the directive has been challenged, and there might be a additional sort of how can I say, an additional directive which has been rubber stamped by the IFA, whereby if teams get club referees qualified, they can go back to what we're talking about earlier on. But again, why would a guy who's looking after a team want to go and referee his club and maybe get abuse from his own players, as well as the opposition? It's a terrible position to be in, and until we get more referees recruited, that's going to continue, Guy, to be quite honest. But and refereeing, personally, in my career as a referee, I find you will have more problems refereeing underage games with parents and family members than you will from the actual coaches and mentors, and to a lesser extent the players. They are a complete and utter nightmare. You see coming the what they call the business end of the season, the bright nights, and I do feel sorry for the coaches here. The coaches there, through wind, rain, and snow, they take the kids for training, they deal with all the personal issues that kids have, and they get them up to maybe a semi-final of the cup somewhere, and it's a bright night, and all of a sudden the grandas, the uncles, the big brothers, the daddies, and they're all coming up, and they're all shouting at the kids, directives, telling them what to do. And I actually feel sorry for the kids. The kids are so confused. And I actually went over to a couple of coaches, and I said, look, I can't do anything about this, but I said, I do feel sorry for you. You guys have done all the work here, and your position's been undermined. And they can abuse me, so they can. But I really feel sorry for the coaches when things don't go too well, and their wee Johnny isn't the next Messi. It's a coach's fault. Maybe not the fact that wee Johnny was eating a beef crown fried rice at a New City the night before, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
And maybe a sausage roll through down his mouth that morning. You have to look at the character here. You know what I mean?
When I was a kid, it must be a generational change. When I was a kid, no parents ever went and watched any games unless you got the final or something. But nowadays, and I used to coach youth football, but me personally, I would never go back to it, and it's because of the parents' involvement, which I couldn't deal with. Like, obviously, you had to deal with parents when it came to getting players to turn up to training and stuff, but I couldn't deal with somebody on the sideline who's not prepared to put in the effort you are, like you said, wind, rain, snow, and you're there
Yeah.
training, and then they turn up on Saturday, they're going to tell you you're wrong to do this or do
Yeah.
that as a coach, or they're going to give off their referee and then
Mm.
get your club in trouble. Whereas when I was a kid, that never happened. Like it was
No.
never, nobody ever went and watched games. Like my
No,
dad
that's
seen
it.
me play twice when I was a kid.
Yes, yes. People have asked me before, do you miss out? Do you think you missed out because of Flamer playing so well for New Hill and so much with New Hill and maybe Willowbank and all? And because you were refereeing, you didn't see him. I answered right away. I says, look, I didn't miss out on anything because I was able to go and watch him playing for school, and
Yeah,
I knew he was in good hands. And it wasn't as if he didn't get any parental support, because I used to sit and talk to him this and that. And if he needed
yeah,
to talk to me about something, I'll go over it. There's nothing that's bad. I mean, I seen it as parents and grandads getting on their kids' back too. You should be
yeah,
doing this, should be doing that. Actually shouting from the sidelines at the kid, and it totally destroys a kid eventually. So it does.
yeah.
That's my verdict on it.
I want to not touch on. I want to have a good chat to you about your playing career, because something I said recently to Jim Shaw when I had him on was, you forget the referees. Most of them actually played, and I know you did play football. Do you want to tell us about your career as a player?
Well, basically started up, but we live in the right down the falls and Divis Flats and that, and we played for Magalata. And
Yeah,
but a very successful on underage team, under 14 League Cup double, under 15 Northern Ireland Boys Cup double, under 16s League Cup double, and as my son might not like to be rated, his dad scored the winner against Wallbank in the 1976 Conan Cup final, which Jordy McCabe probably remembers because he was still a manager. But like anything, Wallbank and Magalata boys and all the boys, those games build memories, so they do, and they also build up friendships. Even though at that point in time, you mightn't have been the best of buddies, if you know what I mean.
yeah,
When you're 16, your hormones and
yeah,
all this and that. But at the end of the day, we always shook hands and walked away after it. And then if you've met in Clonard Disco or whatever else of that, or maybe in the other night when you start to have a drink, you look at this person in a different light, if you know what I mean.
yeah,
And they weren't so bad after all, this and that. And you build up great relationships. And as I say, then uh, when I got a wee bit older, when you played 6, 17s, 18s, and then there was little or no outlet for you to go. Went and
yeah,
played a wee bit for the Distillery. So I did. Then they had no ground. Played home games at Brantwood, trained at Queen's. Jerry McCaffrey and Pat came, the mentors, Sean Quinn too. Like anything. Then I drifted back, and the uh, the Lisburn League, the Mac had a team, the Lisburn League, and I remember playing against Ford a few times. I was only a wee
yeah,
guy. Remember Big Victor with long coat and all, the bleached hair and all, and I was in on these. I just pondered away and played a wee bit for civil service because I worked up in civil service, and sort of, well, I had an ill-fated sort of, how could I say, spell at Drogheda. So it did.
right,
It was, I really don't want to talk about that as such, but it's, well, me and Dixie Green have a good laugh about it now, so we do. And Jimmy McLean was the manager, and a lot of boys played for Drogheda first team. We go down and play for the second team, and there's some mix up, and we didn't get playing, me and Dixie, so we end up in UCD's bar all day, and we didn't realize how strong the pints of heart were down there for we lads is 18, 19, but like that's an our story.
yeah,
Then I said play for the Lisburn League, and then the Max started to get a wee bit sort of what's the term, successful. And we
yeah,
did, well, won a few Lisburn leagues and a couple of I think it was Macarthur Cups, Somewhere Cup, and I remember we had to play County Down Rangers the last 2 games of the season at County Down. The first game we had to beat them to get a playoff. So we went 2-1 down with 5 minutes to go. We thought, oh, that's it. And then we equalised. And then I'll never forget, hard Dougie McGuinness got his head in one, which was probably about 2 inches on the ground. He nodded it in. So we beat them 3-2. Then we played them next week, and we went up and absolutely smashed them. in front of their own crowd. So that was the start of it, and we won a couple of Mahon Cups and this and that. And then obviously the progress to the amateur league, won Junior Shays, Junior Cup. Unfortunately, I was too old then, so it was to really sort of benefit.
Yeah.
But and obviously the MAC just went on, and everybody knows who they are now. And
Yeah.
Unfortunately, as I say, I was too old to be any part of it. But who's to say I would have been any part of it from a player capability aspect? But at the end of the day, it's for the greater good of the club. Fantastic achievements, and I take my hat off to Lawler and everybody else. And Jim McKee was a man who kept them together. At one time, the wee thread might have broke, but he kept them going and going, and then he got Lawler in, and it just
away to win.
Took off. But that's basically my football career as such, in a nutshell, Guy.
Was there a certain stage in your career where you thought about refereeing, or did you fall into it, or?
Right. What happened to our Guy was, I remember I was sort of like a player manager of the thirds one day. We were playing I'm at only 10 men, and it was snowing, and we were taking a wall, and we knew that I knew then that the wee third team was going to go to a wall, and I'd actually done my referee qualification in, I think it called it St George's Hall, and down in Alfred Street, around that area. I don't know if the building's still there or not. So I then had refereed a few games. Don O'Connor was going in. Don O'Connor asked me to start refereeing, and then the third team had gone to the wall, so that left me free. So I started to take up a couple of games, and it just built up. Then about 10 years ago, Jim Jess had an awful workload with the Belfast and District, or the Dunmurry League as it was then. And I said, yes, I says, why don't you let me organise the referees? Because referees was a big issue then. I mean, the 3 or 4 referees to cover maybe 12, 16 games. And it just wasn't adding up. So what I did was I started refereeing. I started recruiting referees, like wee Lawrence Black from the old boys, and people had seen refereeing in the Down County. Why do you fancy refereeing in the afternoon? Give us your phone number. There was no emails or nothing. Probably then, so we don't have the how can I say, the electronic facilities, social media and all, but we didn't have it at the end, so we didn't. But like anything, it just built up, and a lot of referees enjoyed the league, and the Dunmurry League used to be called the Booting League, and this and that. And whoever got the whistle won the match. But I would like to imagine that I may add some input and the whole image being changed. I have to say the committee of the Belfast and District League, they do a wonderful job, and the standard of football, to be quite honest about it, and quite a lot of the Premier League games is well up there with high amateur league football. I mean, at the end of the day, you look at the number of teams that started off in the B&D, and a B&D team won the Junior Shielder not too long ago, St Paul's, and Albert Plunkett were there.
Junior Shield when they won it.
Junior Cup in the same year, beating a fellow Belfast and District team as it was in Ardor Merton Club. So it has sort of how can I say, built itself up. Its reputation has been enhanced, and some of the officials now are senior members of junior football. Jim Jess is president of the Junior Cup committee. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, we're not just now like a wee West Belfast sort of how could I say, bully boy league. You know what I mean? Whoever gets a whistle, whoever shouts sport, everything's above board, and you knew yourself also with the fact of the mobile phones and all. People can't do what they used to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's
say somebody was playing under somebody else's name, and somebody takes a photograph of it's not going to happen anymore. So
the change from the Dunmurry League to BDFL, it seems to be like a complete culture change as well. Like you mentioned, Plunkett, Ardown Workermen's Club, Bacolata won the Junior Cup in the BDFL. And then you have the likes of, like for a lot of teams, their aim is to go BDFL to Amateur League, but the teams coming from the BDFL, the Amateur League over the last number of years, Willowbank, Ben Madigan, the likes of Belfast Celtic young men who came via the BDFL, Newhill, they're all football sides. So they're coming in, and people probably expect them to come from the BDFL and be booting teams, but they're not. They're all football teams, and I've probably left a few out. But the standard of football is quite high, and you can see that in the cup competitions as well, like the Junior Shield, Junior Cup, and the success in that also. So it's a lot of credit to guys like yourself and the committee and the league, because especially referees, if referees let things go and then the league gets a reputation, then it doesn't help use at all. But obviously, you're doing a great job to make sure that it's a football league.
Well, Guy, what people fail to appreciate also is that from a refereeing perspective, I'm the referee allocator. I see the work which goes behind the scenes. Sometimes my wife looks at me and says, "Are you on that phone again?" or whatever. You know what I mean? My daughter thinks I'm doing some form of business on my phone because the phone never stops. I mean, I've seen people phone me up at 11:15 on a Friday night. Maybe look, see if they can get a kids game covered the next morning. Friendlies or this and that, and referees saying they can't do this, they can't do that. But this comment system, I mean, it's been a good, as far as I know, as far as I can see, it's made things a lot easier from a referee perspective. I'm not too sure from the club perspective, Guy. Maybe you.
No, it has. It definitely has. Yeah, for us.
Yeah, I mean, I have all my details on my phone at the click of a button, and I can do my match report depending on the number of goals and the number of cards you've issued, maybe in 10, 15 minutes max. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it is great. And instead of if it's 4 or 5 yellow cards and 3 red cards, you used to have to print out a form for every single one. Now you just oh god, you had to, and then maybe post them off or
Is
email
that why
them
so
off.
many yellow cards and red cards didn't go through?
Well, I can't speak for any other referees, but I would imagine that could well be an issue.
Yeah.
And see another thing, yellow and red cards. See if any referees caught not putting them in, he or she can be hauled up in front of the County Antrim MFA on the charges of bringing the game into disrespect, and maybe be disciplined and banned for a certain period of time.
Yeah.
But what I would like to sort of highlight at the minute, Guy, that I don't know where people have saw it on Facebook or social media. There's a campaign in England at the minute with the English the county FAs. Ref abuse, you know what I mean?
Right.
And thankfully now in the Belfast district, it is the level of discipline is very good. I'll compliment most of the times, but as I said maybe early on, you'll always get 1 or 2 people who, for reasons better known themselves, want to take it out in a referee and this and that. And I would strongly encourage anybody who hasn't seen it. There's a little video, Ray Winston's in it. It shows you this guy, Ray Winston, obviously he's the actor. He acts the person abusing the referee.
Right.
Then he shows you also coaches coming on the line saying, whatever, stop this, whatever. Then it shows you the kid turn around, shouting over, go away. And then it shows him at the end on, say, Hackney Marshes, stand there all alone and nobody about, if you know what I mean. Everybody has deserted them, you know what I mean. So if you get a chance, I would encourage you to have a look at it, Guy. It's very, very good.
In terms of referee abuse, it's something that it always gets brought up. But do you as a referee feel, and the referees that you speak to feel that they get enough protection, or do they feel that they need more protection from whether it be the authorities or just a wee bit more knowledge for teams and a wee bit more education on referees and the abuse they can suffer?
Well, Guy, as I said earlier, I'm speaking in terms of the Belfast district here.
Yeah.
The level of abuse, as far as I can gather, has been minimal. So it has. However, I can't speak for other leagues. I saw a case not too long ago up in Ballymena. I'm not going to mention the team. Referee was assaulted by 2 or 3 spectators. It was in the Ballymena Times.
Yeah.
It was also in the Telegraph. I don't know what the sentences were. If none of them got a prison sentence. And I'm going back quite a few years ago. There's a wee guy called Jimmy, wee Jimmy Edwards. He was refereeing the now defunct Old Boys League at Butcher Road, and he's a wee inoffensive wee man. So he was, and he was refereeing, and he got assaulted in the changing rooms. You know the huts are at Butcher Road, and only for somebody coming to pay him. The wee man would have died in his own blood. He was choking on his own blood, and this guy who had assaulted him got a 3-year suspended sentence. Now, that could have been deemed as attempted murder, if you know what I mean. And I'll never forget it. And personally, I feel if anybody assaults a referee or any match official, he or she should be treated in the same way as somebody who does it in the street.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the difference with having an argument with somebody in the street and striking somebody, or if somebody is close to death, you're talking attempted murder, manslaughter? What's the difference if somebody going into the referee's change room or walking over to him on a pitch and doing the same thing?
Yeah, you know yourself. I mean, at the end of the day, it's all about education. So it is, but it's a two-way ticket. Also, referee also has to go out there and look and say, hold on, this is going to be a competitive game. They all slag about the now new Falls Road El Clasico between Belfast Celtic young men and Newhill.
Oh, it's the San Siro.
San Siro. You know, at the end of the day, I would imagine that would be a fiercely contested game, and maybe things are said in the heat of moment which may not be really meant as such, if you know what I mean, to be sort of, how could I say, abusive. But if you would have to have an experienced referee in there who knows your background, sort of has a bit of crack, sort of liaises with them, and keeps everything straight. Not that I'm saying that Belfast Celtic young men or Newhill would be sort of, how can I say, dodgy disciplinary teams. As far as I can gather, both clubs have been absolutely top notch. So they have, So that was just a wee back cover exercise.
But rivalries are rivalries. Like every team has rivals, and then local derbies. When you go into, if you went into a local derby or a game which there's a lot on the line, say it's 2 teams going for the league or whatever, obviously you're aware of that. But would you sort of, not say change your refereeing style, but being aware of that, would you be slightly more lenient, or would you be slightly stricter and try and sort of stamp the authority early in the game? What way would you go about it?
The directive from the FIFA rules is take into account the context of the game, if you know what I mean. Yeah. Me personally, I'm a guy who likes to let the game flow. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I also like to wait to see what happens before blowing a whistle. Yeah. And unfortunately, in a game where there's intense rivalry, say, I'm not going to mention teams, say a team from North Belfast against a team from East Belfast. I think you might know where I'm going there. Top amateur teams there, you know what I mean? Yeah. And it's blood and thunder and this and that. If I was there, I would tend not to let it flow at first, because some people might take liberties in, if you know what I mean. Yeah, whereas exactly. At the same time, if you go in and you issue a red card in the first minute for fair and abusive, you've set the trend there where either the teams are going to listen to you and for fear of getting another red card, or they're just going to continue to do what the offender did, and you could end up upon the game through not having 7 players on the team. See, it's more dissent than sort of aggression, if you ask me, Gary. Yeah. And there's times where players turn around and they swear, but they don't swear in an abusive manner. Say, for example, give a free kick, say, "Fuck's sake, ref." So,
exactly, yeah.
But it's not done in, in your face.
Yeah.
And they actually don't actually mean the swear word to be directed at you. And I had a word, big lad, relax. Don't be saying that because the other team could take this up the wrong way. If I go and caution one of our players for swearing or dissent, they'll get back at me and say, why didn't you book him for this and that? So there's an interpretation which you have to sort of put into practice from every game. Every game's different. Every player's different. So they are. What really annoys me is the centre forward who's always offside. And every single decision you give is right. And he's in your face. I was never off. You know what I mean? But they try to wear you down. And it's very difficult to be resilient there. Because if he wears you down, he's going to get away with it. Maybe he's going to win it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like we'll get the next one kind of thing. So it is.
I have a very, very funny story to tell you. When I was first refereeing, I was refereeing Mollusk 15. You've been there. And say the North Belfast team was playing the East Belfast team. And the North Belfast team was on the attack. And I was up in the East Belfast penalty area. And I gave offside. And the wee left back from the North Belfast team called me an F and W. You know what I mean? And I just turned and looked at him. And away he just started to walk up, the big Hilton lost towards the change rooms. And I let him walk. I let him walk halfway up. And I said to his captain, he said, I haven't sent him off. So they all ran and got him back down again. So he walked back down and he said, what's your name? So he says, say Gary Kelly. And I just whispered into his ear. I says, who's the F and W now? I just pulled the red card out straight into his You know what I mean? But you can't do that now because you see all this political correctness, and Jim Shaw couldn't get away with what he did years ago. Talking. Yeah. He used the term, and I'm going to use Jim's term for any political. People use the term "get up, you Jimmy on," or this or that. You just can't use those terms anymore. You know what I mean? And I do apologize for anybody who's offended by that term. That's me covering my back again, guy. You know what I mean? So things like that. Go ahead.
Have you noticed the change in players as well? We noticed as coaches, like, have you noticed a change in a generational change? Are players softer these days in terms of physically, or are they more softer in terms of you hurt their feelings when you book them? Or
no, not when you hurt their feelings. When you use it I can see it. I hate to go back to the Jim Shaw side here. Well, I can sort of relate to Jim's because I was obviously played maybe during a period for maybe Jim was coming at the end of his career or whatever. But I remember times of 50 challenges and guys from his ankle and guys from a falls get stuck in. And seeing the fellow was down, he gave a free kick, said sorry about that, shook hands. Now if anybody goes near anybody, there's 6-7 people. Wow, you know the hands up in the air now, rap, and that really does my head in. It really does my head in sometimes. And as I said, but there's been so many changes to the laws of the game. Also, quite a lot of players don't take the time to look them up. So when they go on the field of play, they are not aware of what changes went on. Now, I'll give you an example, and I think this is wrong too. Leeds got a penalty given against them 3 minutes into the Premier League season. And that penalty was given totally against what we were instructed to do. We actually went to National Stadium. Andrew Davy was our mentor, and he clearly stated that if a defender plays the ball, deliberately plays the ball, and it hits his own hand or his arm, it is not a penalty kick. Not a penalty kick. Now Leeds got one given against the 3rd minute of this season, so they did, which I thought was not a penalty. But if I did the same thing the next week, say at where am I going talking? Sally Gardens, for example,
Yeah.
They would say, referee, you're wrong. Sure didn't think it one given against him last week. So, it's really, really hard to sort of they explain to certain people the laws of the game. It really is really difficult sometimes.
Yeah.
And you see the old, he was a lost man. He has to go. He has to go. First and foremost, if say the goalkeeper fouls the attacker in the penalty area, if the goalkeeper has made a deliberate attempt to play the ball,
Yellow card.
It's yellow card and a penalty kick.
Which is a lot better. I like that double jeopardy rule. It's a lot better.
It's basically as the it's difficult to put into perspective into their mindsets. Folks, it's a yellow card. It's not a red card. But then if somebody cleans somebody out halfway into their own half, the guy's away. It's denying another goal scoring opportunity.
Yeah, no penalty.
And
so
no, but I'm talking about if somebody cleans somebody halfway, and I'm talking about the defender here in their own half, and the centre forward's getting away. It's red, if you know what I mean, and a free kick.
Which is pretty. Is there any rules you think have come in the last couple of years which are good and a lot better and a lot easier for referees and a lot easier for the game? And is there any which you think have come in which should be changed or wrong? I know in professional football there's a big deal about the handball rule at the moment.
The handball is really very difficult to what's the term, put into practice, because the example I've just given there, I mean, people could cut me to shreds and say, look at Leeds there, they were weak, bump, bump, bump. And you're trying to explain to them that Michael Oliver was wrong and I'm right. Like, it's hard. It's almost impossible to justify, Gary.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, people will be people. And obviously players and officials want to win. And they don't really look at, unfortunately, the bigger picture. When I played, I didn't look at the bigger picture. I understand where they're coming from. But what I do, Gary, is I explain to myself, look, lads, I know where you're coming from. However, the law clearly states, you know what I mean? And then they get, you don't know what you're talking about. You know what I mean? All of a sudden, the referee's a balloon. You know what I mean? And it can't go on a downward spiral.
Yeah.
But one of the most embarrassing situations I ever had as a referee. Listen to this. I was refereeing an under-11 match, under-11 game. It was a league playoff. I had 2 assistants. Lisburn Youth were playing Linfield. Lisburn Youth got a corner. The guy heads the ball. The guy on the line, wee lad, pulls the ball away. I seen the handball. Penalty. So I buzzed his assistant. I said, what number was it? How is it? I don't know. What do you mean you don't fucking know? I says, I'm sitting here. It's a red card. He has to go. I'm not just picking one. That was all right. So he turned around and said, I don't know. Here's me, right. Give the penalty. So I did. Lisbon Youth didn't make a big issue of it. Fair play. I'm like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they came out the penalty kicks. Lisbon Youth lost. So I'm in the car park and I seen this big guy making a beeline. Here's me, this is one of Lisbon Youth's parents here. He's going to go absolutely ballistic here. It was actually a Linfield parent came to me. He says I robbed him the whole match, didn't give him a decision. he was very aggressive. He's a big guy, like, because here's me, I'm in trouble here. So that was all right. Got him away anyway, this and that. So the following Friday, I'm refereeing Linfield Crusaders, top of the league game. Queens, Dubber on the new 4G. I see the same guy making a beeline towards me. Hear me, oh no, I'm in trouble here. What's he going to do? So I had my linesman flag here. Here's me, if he comes to me, I'm just whacking him. You know what I mean? Oh, I was all right. He says, referee, you referee to my stuff. Here's me. Yes, I did. Here's referee. I owe you a bigger apology. Here's me. You get to see coming through because he was massive. So that was all right. So basically, that was the most embarrassing one. Like so.
Was there ever,
go ahead.
was there ever a time where you said it there? Was there ever a time where I'm sure there's been actually a load of occasions where you felt proper threatened on the pitch or after the match in the car park or in the change rooms? Or
yeah, there was also another incident which quite embarrassing too. Some people still think it was a goal or it wasn't a goal, whatever. You know them 4G pitches, the stanchion. There's usually things inside, but you can hit the ball walking straight out.
Yeah.
But there was an incident over there, and the team would get beat on penalties again. We actually had to walk past, and we had to walk the whole management and in the corridor at the leisure centre, and it was so intimidating. So it really was. And there was another incident. Well, I was only starting off my career. The team from the west of the city, I was doing assistant, and the ball was just played over the halfway line, and I immediately put my flag up. The game was at Junior Stadium, and my flag up right away and kept it up. And the team from the west of the city went and got a penalty kick, but I had the flag still up. So obviously somebody brought to their attention, and because I kept my flag up, I robbed them, if you know what I mean. And the abuse I got that for about 3 or 4 months was bad, like really bad. Oh yeah. I would say, only I was so determined to do the refereeing, I would have walked away. You know what I mean?
But was that when you went to other games involving this team, or when you came across their members, or was this in the street, or?
This was maybe in the street, yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it was a bit uncomfortable, but sure, at the end of the day, time's a great healer, isn't it? I mean,
yeah.
But at that time I was young too, and didn't help the blood pressure because I could maybe a wee bit headstrong too. But
you probably had a full head of hair back then as well, did you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. But in that guy, really, there's no greater enjoyment than getting out and refereeing on a Saturday or a Friday or a Sunday, because see, the merits outweigh the negatives big time. Really do. Like, and people are really appreciative for the most part that they actually have a referee as such. And I always found personally, you go and you speak to people and give people their place, and 99 times out of 100, they'll reciprocate your sort of mannerism, I mean.
Yeah, you find that most people who would be the worst abusers, referees, and give them the most abuse on a Saturday when you ask them, would you ever do a referee course, they'd say, "Fuck, I wouldn't do that for love or money." So,
100%.
But a lot of people in football say they would never be a referee, but you've enjoyed it, and you're still enjoying it. You're still looking to keep doing it.
Yeah, they really do. And at the end of the day, I would encourage it. There's a lot of young lads there and young girls who are cut out for refereeing, and the opportunities that they have is unbelievable. That, I mean, there's a current referee started, a couple of referees started their careers in the BND. One is a FIFA official now, so he is. There's 2 or 3 referees in the Irish Premier League. Stevie Taylor was one. Unfortunately, Stevie is suffering a few injuries. Ray Krangle, Stevie Donaldson. The opportunities are unbelievable. I mean, at the end of the day, you get away on the UEFA list, you get away referee Europa League games. You do the line and you in Europa League, and there's great opportunities there. Also, a couple of girls have come on board too. There's a wee couple of girls that don't really want to name and embarrass them, but at the end of the day, a couple of them pushed on the intermediate football.
Yeah.
I don't know. Some people would argue that they shouldn't be there, whatever. At the end of the day, but that's not for me to say. And at the end of the day, if they've passed all their tests and
they're good enough, if
they're good enough, I take my hat off them, because I'm sure it can't be easy like as such.
Yeah.
But I can tell you now, we got off far later here with regard to abuse and threats. than in England. England is terrible, and
Yeah.
Wales. And surely the guy from the guy Sweeney from the Republic of Ireland got a bad beating there
Let's see that, no.
last year. Busted nose, fractured skull, eyes not done,
Oh,
And
actually, I did read that. Yeah,
yeah,
that was terrible. So it was, yeah.
yeah, yeah. Sean Sweeney, I think you called him or something.
Yeah.
Sweeney, and absolutely awful. You know what I mean? But I wouldn't like to think that if a referee was abused or threatened, physically or verbally, that he or she didn't put a report in. Because see if he or she doesn't put the report in, he's leaving the referee, the family, open to the same abuse. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's. I'm not saying all referees are perfect. Far from it. I mean, I've just hold my hand up. We all make mistakes, so we do. But I don't think that some of them deserve the abuse. I mean, I was watching. What was it? I was watching the Linfield game against Crusaders on
Yeah.
TV. I know why there's few spectators in. The abuse that referee was getting from the crowd, and you could clearly
You
hear
could
it.
hear it.
It was, from a referee's perspective, I was watching it and I was shaking my head and I said, why, you can't do nothing about it
Yeah.
because they're in the stand as such.
I
And
think
then,
it. I think it's worse at Premier Division level, senior football. I've been to
oh yeah,
game. I've been to games in the past where I've stood beside a linesman, run up and down the line,
mhm,
and the abuse they took not just from supporters, which you almost expect, but players on the park as well.
yep, yep,
And the words they're using and the things they're saying to
yep,
the linesman or
mhm,
the referee. I've heard it, the referee as
mhm,
well. But then we go to next Saturday and we say, take ref, and you're shut off.
well,
So
yeah,
it should be it's not as strict as it should be. I felt the Premier Division, and I think sometimes as well, so much is let go in the Premier Division because if
this is,
say a referee is to put a report in about Linfield or Cliftonville or
yeah,
Crusaders
yeah,
players and coaches and what they said during a game, like a referee would in junior or intermediate
mhm,
football, those teams it would cause a big storm in the media. It would be a big case. It could go to court and all this here. It's almost too much hassle. It's almost as if referees are just totally get on with it when it comes to senior football. Whereas in junior football, you don't really get that.
mhm. Well, I can't really speak for the 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 assistants and the referees up in the so-called elite level.
Yeah,
But I can assure you that if there's any big games which I'm in the middle and I have two assistants, I speak to the assistants first. I says, look, that's your job out there. Anybody abuses you, get the flag up, let me know right away. Now, and then we'll go to the teams, speak to them, and reiterate what I've just said to the two assistants. I says, look, lads, you've been more, or girls, boys and girls, whatever it is, you've been advised what the situation is. You verbally abuse a referee or the assistant, especially assistant. The assistant puts his or her flag up. It's brought to my attention. The least you're getting is yellow card. So if you've already been cautioned, you know where you're going. End
yeah,
off. And for the most part, it has a desired effect. Because
yeah.
who wants to let their team down in a cup final for calling a referee a W or an F or a C or something like that? You know what I
Exactly.
mean? Or a balloon or something like that. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, thankfully, it has, for the most part, it does have the desired effect. And, you know, I have to say, most teams do sort of thank you for letting them know
Yeah,
what the story is. And managers also would 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 say to you, would back you up. And if he or she continues to sort of contest the dismissal, they will, the manager can turn around and say, well, you were told before kickoff. No, mate.
yeah,
So at the end of the day,
yeah.
that's what, yeah.
I've two more things to ask you before going to the Twitter questions. The first thing would be when you decide to hang up the whistle, would you ever like to go into assessing or some sort of mentor role as a referee? The other thing is for young referees or any age at all coming into the game, what traits and qualities do you think they should have as a referee in your personal opinion?
Well, first and foremost, know the laws of the game inside out and be able to quote them if need be.
Yeah.
Be fit as you can. Have a personality and try and build up a rapport. Those are the four things I would strongly advocate. With regard to myself, I'll cross that bridge when I come to it with regard to mentor or coaching. But if any young referee comes to me, I certainly give him a time up to sort of advise his or her of the do's and the don'ts. Everybody's different, guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. The one thing I find it most frustrating as a coach, and I try personally to be really. I've been sent off once, yeah, in my time at senior football, and then never in junior football, right? I got sent off for shouting too loudly, but I don't know if it comes from being from a junior background where you wouldn't swear on the sideline. I don't swear much on the sideline. But somebody might correct me in this. But the only thing I find really difficult with referees is referees that don't communicate with you. So,
well,
like you said earlier, you would speak to players. Like, see when a referee makes a decision, I'll say to him, "Can you explain that decision to me?" And I've had referees say to me, "I don't need to talk to you. I don't need to explain anything to you." And that infuriates me because if he gives an explanation and his explanation is a different interpretation of what I've seen, maybe he's correct, maybe I'm wrong, but even if he is interpreted a certain way, then I can understand that he's why he's made the decision. Rather than they make a decision, they probably know they're wrong and then just fob me off because they don't want to have to admit they're wrong. That infuriates me and find it hard. And that's the one thing I'm glad you say it, because I think referees should speak to coaches and players. Some of them don't want to and say they don't have to, but I think you should I think it would make your job so much easier. See, from the first minute, if you're talking to people, you make your job so much harder. See, coming 80th minute, players are just getting more and more agitated at you, and it makes it harder.
I totally agree with what you said there. So that highlights my need for the communication role.
Yeah.
In refereeing, you have to communicate, but what really does my head in, Gary, is a player asks for an explanation. Why'd you give that free kick? And you tell him or her, and then he turns around and says, "But it was never a free kick." But I would draw the line there and I would say, "Look,
yeah,
listen,
that's it. I've explained it.
If you continue to undermine me, you're going to get a card. Now go away, please." And that's you're not trying to be a sergeant major or anything like that. You're just trying to sort of stand up for yourself also, because see if they see you as a walk in the park, they can make your life hell. See if they see a wee chick in your armor, you are in trouble. I can tell you.
Yeah.
Big
that
trouble,
guy. Well. Like, yeah.
You know, man.
That's true.
I mean, go ahead, yeah.
Oh, sorry, no, I was going to go on the Twitter questions. I thought you were finished, but go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. Twitter's fine.
Well, yeah, it was Twitter and Facebook questions. The first one was from a guy on Twitter called Redfet. He said, "Have you ever enjoyed a game that much you didn't want to blow the final whistle?"
No, Guy, because there's always a mistake going to happen. So if you've enjoyed it, get out and go on school. No.
That's a good idea. Blow up straight away. Somebody asked if you ever booked Eamonn. Young Eamonn, of course.
I've never refereed him as such. I've never put myself in that position as such. So therefore,
okay. I'd imagine. Have you ever watched the game he's in and you've thought he should have been booked? I would have booked him by now.
Yes. Remember on under 10, he was playing for Newhill and he gets sent off. Under 10, he gets sent off because he kicked someone, and I gave him a mulligan on the sideline. He probably still remembers it, because then he started to abuse a referee. 10-year-old, I says, "Come here, had a word in the shell. Thankfully, it's had a desired effect."
Yeah, no, he's quite respectful these days. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hugh McKillop asked, "What's the worst decision you think you've ever made?" And at the time, I'll do it. At the time, did you admit it, or to the teams, or did you just pretend it wasn't a bad decision at all and get on with it?
Well, I think if my embarrassing
asked about that earlier, yes.
Yeah, I think that's the one, because I took it for granted that the assistant was going to eyeball the defender, and I I took my eye off the ball and basically put myself in a really embarrassing situation. That was bad. That was
Yeah.
bad, yeah.
Ram Whelan, well, we spoke about this earlier. He said, "Do you not wish you could get involved in referee the San Siro, the New Hill, and the BCYM game?"
Uh, in a word, no, Ryan, to be quite honest about it, because I'm too aware of the intricacies of the El Clasico, and I think it's something I would prefer to watch from a distance.
Yeah. One of coached the forward, Eger, Joe McVeigh. He's a goalkeeper, big advocate of goalkeepers' rules. He said, "What do you think about a keeper coming out with her knees up?"
Funny enough, that's one which I would be mm, very conscious of, because at the end of the day, if you're coming up with your knees up, you're endangering an opponent, and it could be deemed as serious foul play or foul conduct. So every situation would be just on its individual merit. And to be quite honest about it, you don't have to go back too long. The World Cup,
Yeah.
the German goalkeeper near killed the guy. You know what I mean? So, and we had a goalkeeper who was five many years ago. God rest his soul. He was quite sort of thinking that way too.
Yeah.
And he
It's
yeah,
similar to the way you would say, the way we talk about the handball rule, the arm being away from your body.
yeah,
Would you just
yeah.
consider a knees up, but while the knees ended up close to the body, whereas the knee is coming directly towards an opponent? Would you have to look at it that way and interpret it?
Well, first and foremost, you would have to be in a good position to evaluate the whole situation, guy.
Yeah.
If I deemed it to be serious foul play, and it was inside the box, it's a penalty and a red card, no doubt about it. You
Yeah.
cannot endanger opponents. They got goalkeepers are still part of the team, and they're treated the same as every other player on the field of play, in my view. You know what I mean?
But we played against a team the other year, and I don't know if our goalkeeper done it just because he was getting away with, or if he done it regularly and maybe got away with most of the time. Played him in the league, and the first game we played him, he was coming out every time, not with his knee up, with his foot up, as if in a stomping motion, right?
Yeah.
And at one point, he actually stomped on one of our players' backs. He used our player's back as leverage almost to catch the ball, and the referee just was fine with it. Now the next game we played him, he came out and with the same motion trying to catch the ball, right, and our player
Mm-hmm.
knocked it past him
Mm-hmm.
and got it stud straight in the chest.
Okay.
Uh, which is why it should have been stopped in the first place if this goalkeeper thought it was okay. And I don't know if he was doing it to be vicious, there was malice in it, or if that was just the way he played. But it's something should have been nipped in the bud early. And then when we played him again, one of our players could have been seriously injured when it came to it. Now, he got a penalty. Goalkeeper got sent off the second game. But the first game annoyed me because I was bartering back and forward. Referee asked him about it. I was like, "What's his foot up? What's his foot up?" And he said, "There's no problem. The goalkeeper's protecting himself. There's no problem. The goalkeeper's protecting himself."
Mm-hmm.
Whereas they're protecting yourself and then trying to harm somebody else, there's a difference.
Yeah, well, again, the individual situations are analysed and their own individual merit. Some goalkeepers I know in the past would have done that and
Yeah,
think they're entitled to get away with it.
yeah,
But with a new sort of how could I say, outlook on football now, there's not a hope in hell. And see, if you do give him red, he or she should not be too shot, because
mm-hmm.
if you're endangering an opponent, it's 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 a no. I mean, there's no argument at all. Basically, straight red
Yeah.
and a penalty kick if it's in the box.
There was
My
we spoke about that. You spoke about the Leeds one earlier. There was a red
Yeah.
card earlier in the season for a Newcastle player, and it was a red card, but it was one of them ones you're thinking that's a red card. It's just unfortunate.
Mm-hmm.
The ball went over his head, and he tried to
Mm-hmm.
flick his leg back to
Right.
flick the ball with his heel behind him, but the player put his
Yeah.
head down to head it, and he caught him in the head. He wasn't looking
Mm-hmm.
at the player. He was no intention to go near the player,
Yeah.
but he raised his foot that high, caught the player in the face, it's a red card. And like you said, endangering opponents these days, it's always going to be a yellow card or red card, whether it's
Yeah.
intentional or not.
Absolutely. Then especially if you want to play in the Premier League with a VAR and all, you can do nothing there, really.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
So
Flamer, I really want to thank you for chatting to me today.
No problem, Guy.
I've
100%.
really enjoyed it. So I have. It's good to see the referee said, and so many of our listeners would have been refereed by you before, whether it be youth football or whether it be senior football. So it's always good to get an insight, and you've helped me a lot anyway in terms of seeing the other shade of it when I'm standing the sideline from now on. I might have to think twice before I say too much to the referee. But I really appreciate you giving up your time, and I'm glad to hear you're doing well now after.
Thank you, Guy. Guy, I didn't realise how long this was.
Oh, don't worry. Here, don't worry. I've had longer. So.
No worries, Guy. Thank you very much for everything. No problem. Take it easy.
I just want to thank the sponsors again before we knock off. I want to thank Drumble Park Race Course and Learners Ross Driving School. I will be back with another interview next week. Thanks very much for listening, folks.
Brilliant, Guy. Thank you.